Okay. There you go.
There you go.
Suzanne, you're
Do you
talking
want
about
me to share my screen?
Oh,
Sorry.
please, yes.
I'm sorry, John?
you're talking about the central square across in the center of the Equus BPG property.
Right, where they have the benches and there's gonna be a lot of greenery there. I think that's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, that's 13 acres there, and that is an area where we could have community events where we could gather, where people could just, if they're looking for a lawn area to sit. The only, I guess we want to think somewhere more than just somewhere to drive to.
Right.
Hopefully that'll be connected. Well, it will be connected with a trail system. You know, the whole concept of places like the Meadow Preserve is that you can walk to it. You don't necessarily have to drive to it. You're not really supposed to drive to it. So again, we want to, in this community culture thing, if we want to develop a culture, I guess that's consistent with our trail plan, we should think more about walking to some of these events than just driving to some of them, I guess.
Good point.
Any other thoughts related to this? And we think about community activities and meeting places. I know if you look at some of the comments, I think we're looking at some folks, or I think we're looking at some things like maybe some changing of some of our playgrounds, changing or including some areas like for bocce ball. Interestingly enough, when we did the Green or the Greer Parks open house last week, the one thing I expected to come up that didn't was the pickleball, because it came up quite a few times in the survey that we did. So, but it didn't come up related to Greer Park. Whether people just didn't think Greer Park was big enough to hold it, or whether it was just COVID's changed the idea of pickleball, maybe, I don't know.
Well, we had talked about a bocce ball court before up at Drexel Lodge Park. I want to say 2 years ago, at least. It doesn't have to be at Drexel Lodge Park, but certainly there seems to be an interest in that type of sport. And I think pickleball is the same thing. A lot of people are interested in that now. So if we had that type of court for them to play on, you know, that's something. Certainly they're looking for more activities. Well, that would be some more activities rather than just open green space, but places where people can actually do programmed things other than organized sports.
It's more inclusive, I think, too.
Yeah.
Attracts more people.
Yeah, Walt and then Linda.
I think Linda was ahead of me, so go ahead.
Oh, was it? Okay, I'll go back the other way then. Linda and then Walt.
So with regard to, you know, the pickleball court and bocce court ideas, I remember hearing, you know, a lot of the desire for more adult activities like that. So it would just be what would be low maintenance, but yet would be more accessible, because I think a lot of the public stated, you know, these parks are great for kids and not much else. But then just wanted to go back to, you know, the walkable town center and community events. I think it sort of ties into what we were talking about with a lot of that smart growth, the ideas of creating connectivity and then enhancing St. Albans Circle area, which, you know, a lot of us are working on, hopefully in the future. And those would be involving places to sit, hopefully pop up little mini parks, places, maybe outdoor seating that helps. So if we could tie a walkable town center in St. Albans to the new Ellis Walkable Center, where you hold events in support, well, supported by the township with Parks and Rec, Newtown Square and Bloom. You have these joint organizations with the municipality supporting a series of events. I think there's just so much demand for having a series of events post-COVID. So COVID is now, it's not forever, I don't think. In the meantime, creating small places where people can gather, where people can walk, like John said, connected to the neighborhoods, that's going to strengthen community culture.
Under our trail master plan, places like Greer Park and Drexel Lodge Park will be connected with trails to the rest of the green areas and central areas and parks. So you have that ability now where you could have events throughout the town on the same weekend or day, and people could walk everywhere if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So thinking about that and what it would take to move in that direction, what are maybe some intermediate steps that might need to be taken to be able to achieve those types of connections?
Benches, using some of the parking that is maybe underutilized in certain areas, and taking back that space and creating a small mini park, placing benches along for people to sit. I think that would work in this time period.
Yeah, the benches, we could certainly acquire more furniture for those types of things, benches for the parks, if that's something that people are looking for. You know, from a cost standpoint, there's really no reason why we couldn't easily create a bocce ball court, pickleball court at various parks. They're not expensive things to create. You know, if it's there, maybe people will then use it. You know, haven't really thought about how we'd handle the equipment that goes along with that. But at least if we created the court, if you will, to play it on, maybe folks will then look at using that type of thing.
Do you think that, like, and I'm just asking this, like pickleball, if we provide the court, it's kind of like basketball, I would think. People would bring their own racket and ball. That's probably not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how many people own a bocce ball set, but you know, but it might be something that if there was a court, people would do that. You know, I know George and I have talked about some of our frustration from time to time and just how much things disappear or trash gets left. So it's kind of hard to know what the right, you know, do you put equipment out that people could just use? I have a feeling that a lot of it would just walk, but.
We could always have equipment if you need bocce balls or pickle balls or whatever, the pickle rackets or whatever I call them. We could always work with the library, and
Yeah.
with the library card, you go to the library, get the equipment you need, and then go play, you know.
The bocce balls are less than $50.
Oh,
Fine.
thank you.
For a
'Cause
whole
I
set?
wasn't really sure how much they were.
Yeah, I mean, they go up to $150. That's like anything, but they start, you know, they run the gamut, but you could get a set for $50.
So somebody could have a set and be able to take it with them and play.
We can
'Cause it's not
encourage tournaments and things like that. We could help jumpstart these with tournaments and, you know, have teams or something, you know, just to kind of start the interest.
Yep.
It's just a thought.
The supervisors could challenge the community to come and beat us.
That's it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think
that's a
Walt
great
had-
idea.
I think, Steve, you forgot about Walt.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did, Walt.
That's all right. My feelings are hurt, but that's
I'm
okay.
sorry, Walt.
You also forgot Walt's name on the list up above.
Oh, man.
Oh, no, it's your day today, Walt.
I'm sorry, I have to leave right now. I have a question prior to my comment. Does the township get any information in a timely manner about the number of people that make settlement and move into the township other than through tax changes?
We do, I mean, like, we know when a property goes to sale, if somebody goes through the proper channels.
Okay.
And because we have a UNO that gets issued, and we do an inspection to make sure that certain things are, but we check the curb and we check to make sure the house is numbered, things like that.
Okay.
What we find though is a lot of times if the sale falls through, we don't know that.
Okay.
And so it's not 100%, but I would think we're probably right somewhere between 85+% of the time.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that question is, and this is rather an old-fashioned type of an event, but years ago, a lot of communities used to have welcome wagon. And when people would move into the community, and again, I think it was a private organization, but they would come visit the people, welcome them. And that might be something that maybe through some of the committees or the different organizations in the township that could be done, is when a new resident moves in, to go visit them, maybe have a small packet of brochures to tell them about the township website, different events, different things that we have, so that somebody can be, apprised of what's available in the township when they move in and perhaps don't know the area at all. Might be a little easier for private residential. I mean, the apartment issues are probably a little more transient, but that could even be a mail package or something that goes to a new resident with information about the township and so forth.
Yeah, I think at one point, and to your comment there, Walt, I think at one point the police actually delivered a packet to every homeowner that moved in that had a variety of stuff. And I know it's kind of gone by the wayside, but we probably should look at reinstating something like that. That's a good idea.
Some of the comments from the folks talk about community events, community days, things like that. I guess I'm thinking, again, out loud here, danger with that, but in June every year, it's a fixed date pretty much. We know that there's the historic Newtown Square Days or whatever they call it. It's run, I'll call it a quasi township event. It's run by township volunteers. In the fall, there's the Railroad Days, which is usually the first Saturday of October. Again, it's run by a quasi township organization, quasi township related organization. Maybe the township should have an event in the springtime. Early spring, maybe we get it in ahead of the baseball or something like that, if there is baseball. Like a community day event organized by the township where we put volunteers at all the parks, where we, have a supervisor at every park or something, and have events and things like that. It would be a lot of effort on the part of the township to organize that, but just as a way to kick off the year. The snow's gone. Let's all get out and enjoy, see what resources we have for the town, and maybe that continues people to go to these events during the rest of the year too. I mean, in September, we used to, prior to COVID, have a great 1, 2, 3 punch there. You had 3 weekends in a row. You had Railroad Days. You had the event down at the memorial. You had the Plains in the Square, and they all kind of lined up three weekends in a row. It was a great township gathering type of situation where, it looked like it was a good nucleus there. I don't know if that happens again this year. I don't think so. But again, maybe we take from the township standpoint, take one day a year in the spring where we organize a community day and encourage the businesses to participate and get the township staff and volunteers out everywhere one day and organize some stuff.
Yeah, and John, to your point, I think it's the businesses too. We need to get these businesses involved. And I think, and Linda, again, I've talked about Linda and the St. Albans events that she's been spearheading. And I think that, again, it goes back to these sidewalk cafes and the sidewalk eating. It really is important for us to look at that in our zoning to make sure that we allow that, because people might just have to be outside all the time. I mean,
That's
you just don't
right.
know what this is going to be. And people like to be outside anyway, I think.
You know, it's interesting. There's a real push from a variety of businesses right now to change to outside dining, obviously because of what's going on, but they're not wanting to do something temporary. They're really wanting to do something more permanent.
Mhm.
And
So-
that speaks to some of these pocket park things as well. And some of the overlays that I've seen, and when you do a shopping center, you have to have a little pocket park with a couple of benches, and you have to provide bike racks
Mhm.
as well. And you have to have, it's got to be landscaped, and it's usually about 2 benches or so. And it's a small little pocket park, just to kind of invite people to come and sit and commune, I guess.
Yep.
Well, there were a lot of pictures of that and promises of that for the phase 2, the final phase of the BBG development. We're
Mhm.
going to see that.
Yeah.
I think some of these other business locations, the shopping centers, the St. Albans area needs to also think about doing that. Maybe, I don't know, we can do it for shopping centers, but certainly as part of our St. Albans plan, maybe we can create that pocket park somewhere, not in the circle itself, but create that park where there's benches and bike racks and things like that, where people can hang out, commune, and things like that.
Mhm.
In terms of events, you also have the 4th of July parade.
Right.
So real quick, Sonia, did I see your hand up or were you?
No, I did have it up. I was
Yeah.
also going to suggest that we make the bus stops, each of them have a shelter with a bench, a little bit more attractive for anybody who needs to take public transportation in or out of Newtown Square.
And a trash can.
Yeah, they overflow. Sonia, the one, we talked about the bus shelters in one of the sessions, and I had brought up that I had seen them in Philadelphia. Were you in my group when we were talking about that?
No, I don't think so.
There were actually businesses that one side wall of the shelter was stained glass. And they could put their name there, but small, nothing, it wasn't like a whole advertising board. And they were beautiful. It was just one side wall.
That
I
sounds
think-
interesting.
Whoops, I'm sorry. I think
No.
both Linda and George had your hand up. We'll go to Linda and then George.
I was just going to say, there are a lot of comments about senior access and senior activities. And I just think we should also think, how can we connect places like Dunwoody to a central shopping town center? So be that safe crosswalks, safe bike crosswalks. I don't know, but I think there are a lot of people who are saying in the comments that we need to provide and think for the seniors as well. So I just want to be mindful of that.
And George?
I just wanted to touch again on walkability because, again, so much of what we talked about, I think if we really put energy into some of the key pinch points with walkability, it would help all those efforts, for the outdoor dining. And again, the idea that you park once and then walk around the different places. And I mean, even in advance of the Greenways and Trails plan, that we should really look at focusing on that crossing 252 at Westchester Pike to be able to connect the BPG and Ellis development with the St. Albans and the other areas, including Greer Park, and really just put energy into figuring out how to make that a safe and enjoyable walk across.
Yeah. Good point, George.
And maybe we try to create that St. Albans Avenue there as some form of a pedestrian mall, not so much a street. Draw people from the town center or from the development there over to St. Albans Circle to try to create that connection for those two without walking on Westchester Pike. That'd be a place to put some benches in, put some nice decorative lighting in, put some more appropriate trees, things like that, create that pedestrian mall feel. Now, I have no idea how we handle the businesses on that street. And they might not be happy with that. They might like the access, but, you do that, you've eliminated your access to the circle problem now too. Making it a pedestrian mall all the way out to the circle. Now your circle only goes around 3 ways. I can get traffic across there, or pedestrians across that circle now to other places now.
Yep. Anything else? Go ahead, John.
We can look at better pedestrian. I mean, you have that side of Westchester Pike, that whole shopping center, I guess, where Casey's is connected with all the way down to SAP, if you will. If
Yeah.
that's all connected, it's not hard then to create a pedestrian walkway down to Dunwoody and down to places like that. If when we have the Bryn Mawr Avenue extension in, theoretically we'll have a bike lane there and we'll have pedestrian sidewalks there. So now we've created a connection from a whole part of the town to another part of the town. And it might be a long distance for some senior citizens, but if we had appropriate benches and things like that, maybe that's we've got something now of a pedestrian connection that doesn't require us to walk on Westchester Pike.
Great. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next outcome. The township is a place where people of all ages, backgrounds, races, beliefs, and ethnicities can comfortably live, work, play, relax, shop, dine, find entertainment, and do business. Just a minor little challenge.
Ah.
One thing that's interesting to me, I was just recently looking over not the latest, but the latest that we have information back, which is the 2010 census, which is going to become very outdated. But, when we think about Newtown, we are a predominantly white middle-class township. I mean, there is no question about it. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 93% of the population fits in that, and I may even be off. It may be even a little bit higher than that. So when we think about this, I think there is some challenges of what that looks like, just because of what our demographic looks like. Not that we don't. I think that as a whole, most people here would say that they're very open and it's not an issue. And I've appreciated John's comments during our board meetings over the last couple months in regarding just the importance of us being a place where people should all feel comfortable and doing that. But not only how we communicate that, but what activities would we need to do as a community that would encourage something that's different, in that. And one of the challenges, like I said, is we have a fairly small population. I mean, if I remember right, George, you remember reading the Greenways plan? I know they had broken some of that out. Mm-hmm. And I want to say there was no population that was greater than 3% that was not, the middle class Caucasian within the town. And so, you think about trying to have an ethnic kind of event, community ethnicity type of event. I'm not so sure what that looks like, in that if you've got a very small group within the community that has it, kind of thing. George.
So I guess the few opportunities that the community does have to have a wider draw, it's mostly visitors, like when you would have little league games and softball games, and even, you know, the schools to a certain extent can bring people in from outside the perimeter here. And I guess the first thing I think of is how can we help them who do have, you know, ball games going on or a school coming in. Maybe a little bit of the focus should be on bolstering their efforts to be as welcoming as possible.
Mhm.
Linda has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda.
Well, two things. I'm wondering, you know, with the rezoning process, making sure that we have enough affordable housing would be helpful, as well as, yeah, like bus shelters, adequate public transportation. I think that's a barrier which impedes our diversity. I also think, I'm wondering if there could be some sort of incentivizing that the township can do to welcome different businesses, provide a little more support for more diverse businesses, because we could use them. So I think affordability, public transportation, proper public transportation options, and then just maybe having a more diverse business culture could be a few ways.
Yeah, I like the idea of the public transportation. I've always been a proponent to try to increase that, and the bus shelter is a big part of that. You know, I don't think the average Newtown Square resident really understands how robust our transportation system is here. I mean, it's not a train or a trolley, but you know, our bus patronage is fairly strong at certain stops. You know, without going too far down that road, I think, you know, if we had, you know, more identification of the transportation options, more like shelters and, you know, trash cans to go along with them, and proper lighting and benches in them and things like that. You know, perhaps it makes it more prevalent in people's mind and can help us get to that more diverse population. You know, if that's what we're trying to do, which seems like we are, and we should be. You know, maybe that's one area that we can start that process. You know, we may be in the situation we are in Newtown Square because it's tough to live here without having at least one car for everybody in the house that drives, because there is no other option here. It's not like you can live here like you could live in Media or even Town or somewhere like that, where you have not only the bus, but you have train options, you have trolley options, you have things like that. We don't have that here. So one of the barriers to living here is the fact that you need to have a vehicle, maybe not just one, maybe multiple vehicles, just because of the fact that we have, other than the bus, we have no public transportation. So maybe we need to do more to make that bus stand out more, to make it more attractive, to make it more inviting, to just even make it, raise the awareness that it's there, as riding up and down the street. And actually, yes, people are actually using it in Newtown Square. There's at least 4 or 5 stops that I'm aware of that I know have a very strong patronage, and I don't think people realize that. So I think that the bus is a good idea to do that. If people see that there is a public transit option, that maybe that opens up then the ability to live here to some folks without thinking that, you know, we're in this middle of this no transit zone, if you will.
You know, and to your point, John, serving on the Westchester Pike Coalition, Newtown was actually, when they had looked at the idea of having like an express bus from 69th Street to Westchester and back, Newtown was one of the townships that was going to, there was 10 stops and Newtown was going to get 2 of them. And so that says a lot about just what you're saying about that that there is a high level of on and off here in Newtown at some of those stops.
Yeah, and you and I had talked about this, about creating that transit center, if you will,
Yep.
somewhere in the community where buses can actually pull off. And maybe we can have a comfort station there. Maybe we can have, a spot where some of the buses can dwell and make connections, and have somewhat of a small terminal there. Maybe there'll be some retail there or some food areas. Before your time, Steve, I had brought this up when I was on the planning commission with the town center, the BPG thing, and I practically got shouted out of the room when I brought that up. But that's a different story. So maybe there's some education that we need to do with our residents too. But I don't, obviously it wouldn't be there now, but maybe there's an opportunity at the intersection of Westchester Pike and 252 where that could be done, or
Yep.
some other spot that we're not thinking of, to have that have that transit friendly connection, if you will, that I think opens up the town to more diversity. I mean, I would love it. We still have the trolley running down the middle of Westchester Pike, but that's not going to happen. I don't have $1 billion lying around to bring that back. So, and the other option, which we talked a little bit about in one of our other meetings, I know you and I have talked length about it. Maybe there's a way that we need to provide some type of bus circulator system that takes us down to a train station. Everybody says down to media. I don't know if I want to compete with media. I think the closest train station to town is the Villanova train station. It's about 15 minutes away. So maybe if we had a bus that made a loop around Newtown Square a couple times a day, took people down to like the Villanova train station and met the trains and brought them back up here, maybe that's another option, that now you can live here, take the train into Center City, and or take the train to a show or take the train to a ball game and not have to have a car. So maybe that not having a vehicle now allows you to spend more on a house, and it helps us with that concept of affordable housing.
Yeah.
Sonia, I think I saw your hand raised.
I wanted to expand a little bit more on the incentivizing businesses. What about even just going to the businesses that we have right now, like SAP, and saying, what do you like about being in Newtown Square? What don't you like about being in Newtown Square? What can we do to continue to attract other kinds of people to Newtown Square? I mean, SAP brings in a lot of people from all over the world.
Mhm.
And so if like having the hotel here, I'm sure helps them.
Mhm.
Are there other things that might assist them in making SAP more attractive? And are there other businesses that think like SAP? Can we bring them in here? Because we have all of these amenities that we can show them, and that will bring in more people from different backgrounds as well.
Suzanne.
And maybe some of those larger companies would be willing to assist with establishing these amenities that we're trying to get.
Yeah, if we get a couple businesses to underwrite the cost of a circulator bus, I think that would be,
Yeah.
hey, I want to make this thing look like a trolley. I mean, we don't need to have a somewhat less than attractive diesel bus. We could have something that, is like wrapped or painted like a trolley or looks like a trolley, or something that goes around and is attractive, looks like it's fun to ride. And, maybe that's an option,
And to the point, I think it's easier to have for them. You can also sell it to them that they can broaden their employee base by providing access to public transportation, because you see kind of the same people on the bus stop, right? They're the support people,
right?
And especially for like Sunrise Village and Dunwoody and SAP, the
hotel, all those.
Right, and a lot of them are support people. So if you provide this, then they have a wider pool of employees. So, and I think it would help them as well, even if they contributed together, and had this one, you could have more than one sponsor.
Yep.
Walt, and then Linda.
Another thing that always brings people together is food. And if we did something, like, for example, I don't know if anybody, has any of you been to Disney World or when they are at Epcot Center, when they do the
Mhm.
around the world at Epcot Center, where they have stations where you can go do food around the world. If we could do something like that and have different, not so much food around the world, but different cultures, have, Mexican food, have Italian food, have, Southern food, where you could draw people that way. Maybe have somebody like an SAP or a large corporation sponsor it, and then individual restaurants could, set up and do little tastings to bring people in and get together.
You might be able to tie that with an ethnic food type of festival too.
Right.
Right.
Encourage that diversity, foods that none of us might be familiar with.
Right.
Provide that venue for them to do that and see if it catches on. That's not a bad idea.
You might also be able to do it with food trucks. A lot of food trucks.
Yes.
We went to a food truck roundup a couple years ago for my grandson's birthday it was out in Exton, and they had about 25 food trucks there, all different kinds of food. And it was a lot of fun.
Food trucks are a great idea. I know that.
Yeah.
I know my kids love them. My kids are 29 and 31, so they think that's the greatest thing to. And I mean, when I went to college, we ate out of the food truck. I never considered it the greatest thing in the world.
The food trucks are a little different today, John.
Yeah, I know. They look a lot cleaner, I'll say.
A wide diversity of food.
I think we could tie that into some type of community day. Maybe put food trucks
Yep.
in all the parks. Okay, get around to whatever. Here, these food trucks will be at this park. These food trucks will be at this park, and really.
You'd encourage people to move around too.
Right, that's a great idea.
Bocce tournament.
Bocce tournament.
You could have a progressive meal with food trucks at all the
There you
different
go.
parks.
Yeah.
You'd have to put the Italian food where the bocce court is.
Right.
And
Anything else related to that? I just got word that the other group was kind of finishing up, and we haven't even gotten to the third one. So if we can move to the third one, I'll let them know that we'll be about 5 to 10 more minutes.
Because I think these are all great ideas, so I don't want to rehash them, but they're all fantastic ideas. What I was going to say is I think it could also be helpful to have one go-to spot on the township website, which I don't know if you talked about that with the communication piece, but there are to have all these events and to have all these different organizations and pieces put together in one place where people can find them, I think would also help strengthen community culture. Because right now it's very haphazard how you go about finding what the library is having, what the parks are having, what nonprofits are having, what for-profits are having, what businesses are holding. So I just think that could be something in addition to just a Facebook group, but that the township could take a little more ownership to collect and help create that go-to spot of where things are happening around the town. And I love that bus idea, the transit, the little trolley.
Trolley.
Yeah, we have one here in, I'm in the Adirondacks in Lake Placid, and the township, I think, the municipality supports it, and it is so important for the tourists, for the people in and out, and the people who are service people who depend on it, because there's no other way to really get around. And that actually is a key transportation mode for a lot of people who can't bike or walk right into town. So I just think that's great for picking up at the train station, or who doesn't have access to the Route 3 bus.
Good. Anything that we would think that, particularly over all of the different areas that we've covered, that we might not have covered, that would look at this number 3, that we'd be a place where people who live here don't want to move from it, and where people who don't live here want to move to it.
I have the latter, people who don't live here want to move here. You know, again, for fear, based on your opening comments, for fear of saying that we think we already are there. I just referenced the amount of time the average home spends on sale in Newtown Township. It's a very short period of time that's generally measured in days, sometimes less than that. Very rarely does it go weeks and hardly ever months. So I don't know that there's any more that we can do, because apparently people do want to be here. You know, that they've had no trouble selling every new product that they've built here. It's selling out before they're done the construction. So whether it's an apartment, a condo, you know, a townhome, a carriage home, or a full-size house, it's all selling. So we have created that environment to some extent that this is a very desirable place to be. Obviously, there's still people who are moving out, but I mean, I don't know why they are, other than change the job, change the lifestyle, things like that. So I don't have any good ideas. I'm saying we've completed this. I just don't have any good ideas for this item, because I'm kind of at a loss that this is a problem, I guess.
You know, I'm sorry, go ahead. I think somebody was going to say something. No? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what happens though, I think these are all related, but it seems that what happens is the houses are for sale and then more people of the same type move in. So so we maintain the age and we maintain the racial composition because that's the way it's viewed. And I think the way to change that is, I mean, there's plenty of people who are not Caucasian or middle class. Why aren't they moving here? And I think these activities that we're talking about, these making it a more walkable township, having more activities for different types of people might attract them. But it seems to me that it just, someone goes and someone replaces them of the same type of person. And I'm not so sure that we need to do things other than make it seem like a diverse community by having diverse events. Like I said, there are plenty of people who are not Caucasian or middle class and could afford to move here. It's just that it doesn't have that atmosphere here. It's sort of like a mainline type atmosphere.
Yep.
I came from South Jersey, Gloucester City, which is just south of Camden. And when I came in here, I mean, I'm a fish out of water living here because I worked in a factory, put myself through college working in a factory and took the bus to Camden. So I understand how people would feel moving here because I felt that way. I wasn't raised with money or raised in a mainline type atmosphere. And you move in here and to me, I just felt I felt like that's what I was moving into. So, but if I think if we can get these other activities, these other events, that might draw people and make it, you know, it's make it a friendlier town. My opinion, as an outsider.
Sonia?
I have a small group of colleagues I interact with, and one of the things that happens when they talk about moving out of Center City or from where they're at, the school system is very heavily viewed. And I think Marble Newtown's got a great school system, but we're like the redheaded child of Radnor, TE, Rose Tree, and Haverford, you know? So we have to, I think, continue to improve our quote unquote ratings so that it's a factor for people who are in their 20s and 30s when they're looking for a place to live. What I'm seeing again in my small group, my small community, is a lot of people are selling after they've become empty nesters and moving to Town Square because their taxes are lower than Gladwin or Bryn Mawr or well, those, like I said, I have a small community. So we're getting a lot of empty nesters too into some of these condos in Ellis Preserve, for example, or in Solicitor. And if we're really trying to mix up the community, I definitely think the school is something we have to focus on and ensuring that we have the resources to stay competitive.
Very good. I'm going to need to cut us off. The other group is like begging for us to come back. And so we're going to go and switch back to the other side. And so if you would, please sign back on and we'll go from there.